You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Remax Palm Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in Northport, Florida. I want to send some special thanks out to Remax Palm Realty, also Lions Title and Trust. They do a great job with your closings, and also Hardin Insurance Group, a fantastic organization. All three are part of my business model as a local real estate agent, but they are part of our major sponsors at the radio station, and we look forward to a long lasting relationship with them. I've got a very special guest in the house, Mr. Or actually, I should just say Chief Gorski, 50-year veteran of EMS, and super proud to have him part of our broadcast. Chief, how you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. So, we've had some missed opportunities, and we had a couple glitches in the past. We're correcting that now. We've got a great connection so that people can hear who you are, and 50 years is a long time to serve, for one, but dedicated to pretty much EMS the whole time, right?
That's correct. Yeah, 50 years. That is a long time. It's a half a century.
Yeah, well, that I bet when you were growing up as a kid, you didn't ever think that you would say I was a fireman for a half a century.
No, never would have thought that.
And that's a feat. How many people have actually? It's got to be there's got to be a stat out there. Um, that
Yeah, I don't know offhand, but just from our three county area, I think I've got everybody beat,
Wow.
from Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte area, maybe even DeSoto, being in this profession the longest. Because there's not too many people out there. Usually, when they hit that 25-year or 30-year, they're retiring, they're moving on.
So what's made you stick around for 50 years?
Couple of things. I think the main thing is the job itself, the profession. I've always, wanted to be a firefighter, paramedic, and literally, it's a rewarding career. It's got its ups and it's got its downs, but it's more, more ups on it. But I mean, it's got challenges that I love to be challenged, and both from being a street medic to actually running the EMS agency at numerous organizations.
Well, you had mentioned that we got a certification, and that really is in your hands, isn't it?
That's correct. Actually, since we talked last, we got another one. But first off, yeah, we are what's called CAS accredited. It's the Commission of Ambulance Services. There's only, let's say, out of over 400 EMS providers in the state of Florida, there's only 20 of us that have that high level of accreditation. In the United States, there's only 187. And that is a true reflection of the services that are being rendered here in Northport. It validates all our processes. It validates everything that we say we do in saving lives. It just basically validates all that. Just last week, we applied. We were the first in the state of Florida. A few months ago, we applied for this, but just the other day, last week, we are now the first in the state of Florida and the first to receive the gold tier for pediatric readiness. And
Wow.
the brand new level of accreditation. We were awarded the gold certificate and the gold tier, and it's good for 3 years. And in 2028, they'll be going through the process again of renewing it to continue forth. But yeah, I mean, that's like when I saw that application, I told Captain Satterley that works with me, we need to jump on this right away because over the past 2.5 years, we have done a tremendous amount of work and training, purchasing of pediatric equipment. And I know for a fact we're going to get it, and we did. In fact, we really impressed that site team because they came down from Jacksonville to actually review and your documents and to review your equipment, and they were really impressed.
Well, that really is amazing. And on top of that, I believe we're at like a 52 average age average in Northport. So we're a younger generation for the state of Northport, so to speak.
That's
And
correct.
being able to tout that to our community, that's huge.
It is because when I got here to Northport, basically, shortly after I got here, I got a couple of phone calls from All Children's Hospital wanting to do more with Northport in regards to public education events for kids, as well as the car seats and installing them, meaning getting some of our firefighters trained as car seat technicians. And we jumped on board right away with them and doing pub ed stuff for kids and their parents, and it's been nonstop. And what's been great about this too is that we did purchase a lot of equipment, but it didn't come. The money didn't come from the taxpayer. I was able to get it all free through the Southwest Health Coalition. They purchased all that equipment for us.
Wow. So there's some creativity when you guys go about these things too. So you're not it's not part of your budget, it's not part of the taxpayer pocketbook, and you're looking for outside resources on a lot of these things that you're getting certifications on then, huh?
That's correct. That's correct. For
You know
example,
that go ahead.
with the CAS accreditation, one of the things that we wanted to do was go to the next level for our intubation equipment for both adult and pediatrics. Right now, we have what's called an air track, and it is a video scope, but it's like old technology. So we just recently we're going to be replacing all of it, but that funding is coming from the opioid settlement money. So again, it's not hitting the taxpayer; it's coming from that settlement money that occurred nationwide.
Well, I've got a lot of years at Grant Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio, as a critical care tech, and innovation uh, is vital.
Yep.
I put it at the same level as CPR in a lot of cases. Can you talk about the intubation process now with that certification and what that difference means to the citizens?
Absolutely. Like you had just said, that particular skill is performed by paramedics, not EMTs, but is one that is considered essential when you have a person that's not breathing, or one that's got labored breathing due to something going on with their respiratory system. And basically, this equipment allows the paramedic to actually visualize the placement of that tube that goes into the trachea. So basically, they're able to see it and it's in color, and they're able to easily see the vocal cords, watch themselves pass the tube, past the cords, and then verify the tube placement like they would normally do with stethoscope and other adjunct equipment. But what's neat about this particular equipment, it takes pictures as well as it does video. So that is an unbelievable documentation of that intubation process for the run report, because again, the skill is low frequency. We don't do a lot of intubations, but the risk of an intubation, of meaning a misintubation, is extremely high.
Real
And,
high.
so literally this provides the documentation to show that the intubation was successful, and it becomes part of the actual run report.
That run report. Um, can you talk a little bit about that? I know that we've had this discussion in the past, but there's some really critical information that gets passed along to inside staff at the hospital once you're at your destination. Can you talk about the value of that and for the citizens' point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. When you go back 50 years, we didn't have computers. We did paper and pencil basically on a,
Right.
5.5 by, or 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that was NCR that the majority of the time nobody could read it, but with the computers, it's actually a software that we utilize, Image Trend, and there are other types of software out there, but Image Trend, literally, you data enter from their iPad as the call progresses. So, meaning as soon as they get on scene, if there's a driver's license available, they can scan it, and then basically the demographics of that patient scanned right into the run report. If not, if they don't have a driver's license, then basically they just input patient's name, and stuff like that to get it started. But everything from the vital signs to their assessment of the patient to their treatments, it's instantaneously entered into this report. And when they're running an electrocardiogram, same thing. That particular EKG then is uploaded automatically to that run report. And as well as once they are utilizing their LifePak 15, besides using it for their EKG, and they're doing vital signs, meaning saturated oxygen,
Yep.
end tidal CO2, all that kind of stuff. It's documenting it and it transfers automatically that data to the run report. So there doesn't require them to input it, it automatically transfers. So then when they arrive at the emergency room, what they'll do is they'll transfer, when they transfer the patient over, before they actually physically transfer to a hospital bed, they'll quickly get the nurse, and the nurse then will sign for the patient electronically. So there's a signature accepting the patient. Also, if there was an intubation, they would verify the placement of that endotracheal tube, or the doctor, or a respiratory therapist. So it's documented there as well. Well, then when they transfer the patient over and that nurse signs it, well, then automatically they'll hit upload, and that report gets uploaded to the cloud. And what's important about that is now the emergency room immediately has access to that report, because there's many times that they'll need that report. Like a doctor will initially see them from the emergency room, but maybe it's going to require a follow-up from a personal physician or a specialist, and they want to like look at, well, when was the last time this patient was seen, especially if we're dealing with a stroke, and they're able to instantly bring up that report, and that information is there for them.
That's amazing. The technology has come a long way. Over 50 years, I
Yeah.
could add in there with you. And you've been part of this, the last part of your career. You've been engaged in the processes all the way through. But how do you feel about the advances of from where you started to now on EMS and even the fire department as a whole? It's kind of evolved.
Yeah. Basically, it's really neat to be in part of this, but it's also a little scary, because technology is, rapidly moving forward in the medical field as well as the fire field. And the one thing that I'm afraid of, that eventually, and it's coming because some of the hospitals have it now inside, is artificial intelligence. I
Right.
still think it's extremely important to have the human element still involved in all this. But from the standpoint of technology, when it was introduced into the fire service EMS, it actually produces efficiency with our everything that we do. So, meaning a call in the past, let's say, would average a typical EMS call, let's say in the past, go back 50 years, it could take us from start to finish, let's say an hour and 30 minutes. But today, you can cut out 30, 45 minutes of that because of technology. And nothing taken away from the care of the patient. It's just all, and you know what I'm talking about.
I
It's the
do.
documentation that's
Yes.
required in this. And now, it's basically, helps us tremendously. And then any new piece of equipment, usually it's electronic. There's a link to your incident reporting software, so that information then is easily uploaded to your device and then into your report.
So it doesn't really it doesn't really stop your one-on-one care that you talk
No.
about, but really the essence to this whole documentation thing over the years has increased tenfold. And now that
Correct.
you have technology kind of helping out, it's taken the burden of the paperwork and shifted that off of the hourly
Yeah.
that you talked about, that hour and a half, and it's a much better documentation with the video and the
Hmm.
pictures and all of the things that brings in, along with the even the vital signs being recorded now, and that's all data that would have had to been written down
Yeah.
and transferred over.
Yeah. And a funny thing is, well, not a funny thing, but with that, everything is timestamp, date and timestamp. So, like when you run your vital signs, it automatically knows the date and timestamps when they were done. But if you go back in the past, you were dependent on your watch. Oh my gosh, my watch stopped, or everybody in your crew, this is the truth. Like, if there was four of you on this call, everybody's watch is going to say something different.
Right.
And there's these gaps. So, meaning from what when I wrote, let's say that I took the vital signs at 1000 hours, but yet the watch of somebody else's says 10:02. These gaps needed to be cleaned up, and that's what technology did. Because it's you don't ever want to show delays or gaps that you could not explain. And again, technology really has vastly improved that, so you don't see that anymore.
So the common cold scenario, not so much, but these critical scenarios where you're calling EMS and you're going into the hospital on an emergency run, whether it be heart attack or a trauma, or just even a respiratory issue in general. Those times that you talk about, they're critical because there's meds, there's
Yeah,
there's different things that apply into that,
right.
that everybody needs to know about. And kind of people shrug their shoulders at a couple minutes, but when you're in a critical time frame, those
Means a
couple
lot.
minutes do matter.
Yeah. Another thing too, and you know this from your background, but like when you're working a cardiac respiratory arrest, epinephrine 1 to 10,000 every 3 to 5 minutes you give it. Okay, there's no max dose, but literally, somebody had to keep track in the past with their watch. Okay, next dose. But now, because of the technology with Image Trend, the run report, automatically it'll ding you when your next dose is due or when your next procedure's due,
It's
which
crazy, isn't it?
again increase the efficiency of how you do your job. One other thing too I want to touch on that's new this year, I'm sorry, last year towards the middle of the year, was the way we communicated to hospitals. We used to use the radio to communicate patient information that we're transporting to their location. We just went on and told them a book, basically of what's going on. And that completely has done a 360. Now everybody's moving to what's called Pulsera, and it's an app that goes on their iPad or their smartphone. And basically, everybody at the hospital in the emergency room has that app. So literally, if like for example, Rescue 81 is going to be transporting, let's say, to Sarasota Memorial Venice, they don't have to call on the radio. They just go on the app. They put in some basic information, and literally, they send the text. That's what it is, a text message, and they get an immediate response with a room number. If they require additional information, they're going to ask you, via the app. But
Fantastic.
that alone, because, and you know what I'm talking about, there are
Mhm.
some people that will talk forever, which they don't need to. You need to be brief on what your patient's going on with your patient. And then you've got others that were like too short. This is like the in between. And I'm telling you, so far, it's worked out perfect.
You know, you've got a streamline process now with what we're doing in Northport, and other communities are doing this. We seem to be um, right now kind of the leaders in the industry on not just with you guys, but even our police department is the leaders in technology. And you talked about Jacksonville actually coming down and looking at the processes. Um, we we got a lot to be proud of, don't we?
Yep, absolutely. Because again, you just said it. We are the leaders. We are Northport Fire Rescue for EMS and fire suppression. We are the leaders. And then more so now, like I said, when they came down to do the site review for the pediatrics, I mean, we were the first, literally the first agency and the first to get gold. Out of over 400 agencies, EMS in the state, there's only 22 of us that have CAS accreditation. So, what can I say? We're the best.
You know, here's the thing that people need to hear the loudest too. If we keep striving to be at the top of our game in EMS and police, we've got a local physician in Lee Gross who is a concierge doctor, which he's
Mm-hmm.
leading in his industry.
Right.
We've got a whole lot in Northport. I'm going to throw in something I talk about, once a month at least, is our recycling program. We're a leader in that industry,
Yeah.
and so the people of Northport, the pride that we should be touting, is off the charts on a lot of things that our city as a whole is focused on, because this doesn't happen just because Chief Gorski said, no, we should do this. There's a lot of support, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. When the city manager got hired, what was that, 3, 4 years ago? When
Yep.
he came on board, he made the statement to all the department directors that said that your agencies need to look at accreditation. And we kind of already were looking at accreditation for, because there's a couple different avenues for fire and EMS. And but when he made that statement, he made it clear he wanted to make certain that all of his departments within the city government are going to be performing at top notch. And how do you do that is through accreditation, because you're validating everything that you said you're doing. So if it has to do with recycling or saving lives and protecting property.
Absolutely. And when the citizens hear about the fire department as a whole, there's something that comes along with that to the citizens too, and that there is some savings to the citizens. I know in Charlotte County there's some gaps where there aren't fire departments within a 5 mile radius of a lot of homes, so their insurance is higher. We have a strategic plan, and I'm blessed to be part of that process with your strategic planning this year. But can you talk about that as a whole,
Sure.
in what you've seen over 50 years, and why we're doing such a good job at supporting the citizens?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, go back 50 years, nobody ever planned like they should have planned 50 years ago. Information was made available to previous chiefs of the many fire departments within the 3 county area, but basically, not much was done with that, meaning they knew 50 years ago, they knew, as one example, Lakewood Ranch was going to blow up, or Palmer Ranch. Northport, they knew that that was going to be developed. And
Yep.
so, what I'm getting at, it doesn't mean that you need to build 100 fire stations the next day. What it needs to be planned out is like, okay, let's do a strategic plan for 5 years. Within the first 5 years, what do you think we're going to need? Because the population's going to increase, We're getting this housing development started. This one's going to, and start mapping out what needs to be done, because then you tie your dollars to those particular projects. Most importantly is the placement of fire stations. That is critical, because if you know where your developments are going to be, then you're going to properly locate these fire stations to be able to provide the maximum coverage that's needed. In addition to just being a fire station, you do a combination station with your law enforcement. So now you're not only providing fire and EMS, but you now have a place for law as well. And we've also done, as you know, partnership with Sarasota County. So they're part of that station as well, because we help each other in that War Mineral Springs area.
Yep.
So 50 years ago, that stuff wasn't even really talked about, although the information was available. But if you're going to succeed and you want to truly develop your organization, you need to actually get a ton of different kind of information, from your projected populations to your developments of where they're going to be, and then start connecting them to your strategic plan. Because with a fire station, you know, besides building that station, you're going to need a fire truck, you're going to need the ambulance, you're going to need people. And then you got to realize too, is that those vehicles eventually will need to be replaced. So once you create that part of your capital improvement plan, you need to also have a vehicle replacement plan. So meaning, fire trucks will need to be replaced in 15 years, an ambulance in 7 years, depending on their usage, on hours used on the chassis, stuff like that. I mean, so it's like a multifaceted thing that you're actually building. These documents, when I go back, when I was with Sarasota County as their fire chief, I want to say it was 1996 was when we started, all departments under the county administrator was to create a strategic plan document, but instead of 5 years, it was 3 years, which doesn't matter as long as you are doing something. And what's really important is that once you create that document, it's created from the bottom up to the top. So meaning you're going to involve everybody at the lowest rank to the highest rank in its development. And then once it's developed, that's something you never put up. That book should not be put on a shelf. You want to live and breathe that document every day. And that's what links to your budget. So like when you're doing your budget for next year, all right, I can link strategic initiative number 1 to build and start building station 87. So everything is linked so the public can see that flow and, oh, okay, that's where the next station's going to go. And here at Northport, they've been doing this for a while. And literally, the plan eventually, I don't have it in front of me, but right now we have 6 stations. Eventually, they're going to have 12 stations covering the city of Northport.
Well, it's 104. It's
Yeah.
104 square miles,
Mhm.
and within that 104 square miles, we also have gaps where
Yeah,
we're unincorporated Sarasota County, and
correct.
and you're also responsible, I guess, so to speak, for covering those areas too because of the partnerships, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So that's why, as a good example to that, is Station 8626. So basically, we help each other in those areas. And you're right, there are other areas like that too. But, that's where, too, you can use the use of technology and to help you, too, with some of these gaps. Let's say, for example, for responses, let's say, for example, where it doesn't border Sarasota or Charlotte. It's a gap within the city. Well, if you determine what your peak call volume time is, you could run your reports, which I do this all the time. Okay, so like Wednesday, busiest day, okay, and the time frame where you're the busiest, let's say, is from 10 to 2 o'clock in this given area. Well, if you know that, and historically it's been doing that for, let's say, the
Yep.
past 3 years, what you can do to actually help with response times, to keep that down is you actually can move a unit to that area. Not that you're building another station, but you can move resources to that area. Now, with peak times, I can tell you, been doing this for 50 years, they're not consistent. So meaning this year, the busiest day of the week could be Wednesday and the time frames from 10 to 2, but next year it could be Friday. I mean,
Right.
it's the way it works out. But what has been consistent is the time from 10 until 2. That's the busiest time for us.
We keep kind of going back to technology, because these reports that you're generating of they used to be done a different way back in the day.
Yeah,
You had conversations, you had written reports, and you had to do a lot of extra work in order
man,
to really
but
like fine tune it.
yeah,
Now with this current call system that we have, you kind of incorporate a couple things in there. I want to hit is that relocation of resource.
mhm.
We're really good at doing that because of the help of technology and the fact that we're staying on top of these things. And uh, on top of that, it helps with our call times. Can you talk about that combination?
Sure. A good example, like right now, well, first let me explain that what you just want me to. Okay, so literally, yeah, you look at, your calls, and basically, again, like I said, you can see that as part of your strategic plan, you want to also have established response times. So every fire department in the United States uses the NFPA, National Fire Protection Agency standard 1710. So basically, it has some parameters on how quick the first unit should get on scene for a fire, same for an ambulance. So everybody adopts standards like that. And that's our goal. And basically, in doing that, to monitor it, that's where these incident software comes in, because you can run reports. I can run reports daily, monthly, year. I can run any report you want. And that report, when you run it, kind of tells you where you're at with your response. So if I've got an area that's got a long response, that's ammunition for the budget, for the city manager, on the reason why we need another ambulance to be placed on the road, or fire truck, or whatever. An example right now that we're working on, and you know what I'm talking about, is Price Boulevard. All right, so that's coming up pretty
Okay.
soon. And with that, there's going to be disruption of service. All right, because obviously of what's going on. So what can we do to prevent delays? Well, we've already been talking about putting in another unit. Like right now, we have Station 84 and 83 that are out east. Well, maybe adding another unit or 2 units to that side of the district to help prevent that from occurring, as well as have an automatic through dispatch where they do move up, move down. So meaning if 83 or 84 catches a call, dispatch automatically, without having to be told, would move the next closest resources to that given area. So basically, it's stuff like that that we're working on right now as this thing unfolds with Price, because we learned a lesson with Hurricane Ian when those bridges
Yep.
washed out
Big
and
time.
water mains were broken. But thank God we had doubled up, actually tripled up on staffing, as well as units at those stations. So we had no issues. And that's
You
kind
know,
of what we got to do.
I've talked to Chief Titus numerous times, and I was blessed to be part of the EOC on the last two hurricanes, and spent an enormous amount of time with him. Blessed, by the way, to be educated by him, just like I feel today. I'm blessed to be talking with you, because the collective knowledge that you guys bring to the citizens of Northport for crisis management. I,
Mhm.
I I don't care what anybody says. Firefighters are preparing for crisis
That's,
every day,
yeah,
and crisis
right.
management is part of your focus. And you guys do that collectively, don't you?
That's correct. I mean, every day you're planning for the worst case scenario.
Right.
And like just last week, we were having some training meetings with an upcoming, which you'll get an invite when we do this too. We're planning an active shooter drill again, and
Fantastic.
this would be a good one for you all to watch and
Oh yeah.
evaluate. But so again, with Northport Police Department, as well as Sarasota County Sheriff, Sarasota County Fire, and the school board's police, working to do a drill. Now, location, I think we got a really good spot instead of a school right now, because what we want to do is the event, it doesn't have to be at a school, as you know, it can be anywhere.
Right.
So, we have an opportunity as soon as the Brave games are over, um, of using that facility, and that would be, you get lost in there, and that's the whole idea for
Right.
this too, would be not to get lost, but to give you challenges, and how to overcome those challenges. But like I said, you're always training for the worst, and because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I mean, remember on September 10th, who knew, in 2001, who knew September 11th what was going to happen, and as that unfolded, and
And, and there is no real training for that.
no, for that there's not. You just got to rely on your basics of incident command, and your basics on what you would do, for, like you just said, a chaotic scene, and to bring control to it, and
Right.
care for people, and just do your job.
It's a good conversation that we're having, because a lot of people think that firemen go to work, they don't have a whole lot to do until we need them.
Yeah.
And the minute we need them, then the whole conversation changes. It's the same thing with the police officers, by the way.
Yeah.
And I even hate to group this in, but our public works department, while you have water, it's not a big deal. It's when you don't have water that's a big
Right.
deal.
Right.
So all these entities that we kind of take for granted as
Hmm.
citizens, there is some value in this conversation, because enlightening people on what you guys do in the quiet time.
Right.
So all these things didn't happen during a crisis. They
No.
happen because you're working on these things to prevent
Every
or
day.
aid into the crisis.
Right. That's why every day, there's what we call SOG, standard operating guidelines or protocols. Those are always being revised. But, I'll go back to Ian. Ian, even though it was a terrible hurricane, Ian was a great opportunity for everybody, to learn from it, like what our weaknesses were and what our strengths were. And that hurricane affected all departments, just like you just said about the water. We had lost water, we lost sewer, we lost power. I mean, literally, you had to improvise. What are you going to do? And even though you got a generator, what happens when the generator doesn't kick on? And we had that happen. So, I mean,
Well,
it's like
I
it's
was so proud of the OC for Milton and Elaine. And I have to say this because what you're saying is 100% true. Ian kind of shook the building, so to speak,
yep.
and shook a lot of our buildings. Okay, but it really uh, kind of awoke the beast
Mhm.
inside of our walls of City Hall and Public Works and fire and police, and it just woke everybody up to the reality of, oh, we can get this. and
Yeah.
and yes, while we've been dodging them, this one hit, and it showed its ugly power, but the resiliency of the staff that we have, the history. um you know uh our city manager Jerome Fletcher brags about the years of experience that we have in leadership.
Hmm.
You got 50 yourself, so I don't even think you were thrown into that mix because you were kind of down sheet a little bit.
Yeah.
But add yours in. There's 152,
Yeah.
and you got a third of it by yourself,
Right. Well,
which is amazing. But and
that
I go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, no, I was gonna say that hurricane though really was an event that I don't think people ever forget because when that hurricane hit us, we even lost our hospitals. We lost Northport, we lost Venice, we lost Inglewood, all of Charlotte County, and like, okay, what do we do now? So it had made us think, okay, what area is high and dry? That's going to become a patient collection point, and then we'll have to run them to main campus until
Right.
we get some other ambulances, as well as immediately we ordered a FEMA DNAT team, a field hospital, and get it set up so we could at least have a temporary hospital here in Northport. And nobody had the experience here in doing that, which they learned because as I ordered that and it arrived like 72 hours later, I got everybody involved in that so they learned how to do that with that team. Because again, that's something that you don't do that often, but
Right.
now they have the experience if it's ever needed again.
That we talk about these things, Ian and different events, and then the accreditations. All those accreditations, they're not just because we can get them. We do go after them, but they're all part of the intensive training that you guys continue to, I guess, bolster
Hmm.
within each and every fireman that comes on board, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Uh,
And can you explain what the new guy goes through today in his training into the department?
Absolutely. Again, when you go back 50 years, the chief will say, you got hired. Well, when you got hired, that first day you were on a fire truck or you're on an ambulance. The first day. That doesn't happen anymore. Here, when you get hired, you have to go through a process just to get hired. But if you're one of the lucky ones and you get hired, you're actually in orientation for 6 weeks. And what that means is that Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, you're actually assigned to 8 hours a day. You're not on shift work. You're going through an intense orientation, which involves departments besides fire department, but like HR um, uh, has time with them, other agencies. But once they get through that basic stuff from other city departments, then we provide more intense EMS training as well as fire training. So when these guys and girls finish orientation, they're given a written and a practical exam, and then they get assigned to a shift. And when they get assigned to a shift, they immediately can function as a driver on an ambulance or as a third person on a fire truck. They understand the language. They know basic concepts of the SOGs, all that kind of stuff. They're well versed in it, so they can start functioning as soon as they complete orientation. There's still agencies out there in the state of Florida that basically, when they have an opening, they hire and you just start working. That to me is kind of dangerous because literally there's a lot to learn for this job. And this orientation program gives it to them. And since I've been here, originally it was 5 weeks. We added a week to it. And who knows? Maybe it'll be another week added next year because there's more stuff to train on it before you release them.
Well, and how is the efficiency of that fireman once he goes through that 6 weeks of training?
100%. There's night and day difference between a person that went through it versus somebody that didn't go through it. They're lost, and that's dangerous and it's a liability. But literally, these guys and girls, when they go through it, they feel confident. They can do the job once they complete it. That little bit of fear they may have had is gone.
So we talk about the difference in training and certifications and different things like that within Northport, and being a leader. Are we a leader in that training side of it too?
I would say we are, because every time we do an orientation, we look at the orientation, we get feedback from the guys and girls that are through it. So if we need to make improvements, but like locally around us, like Sarasota County has an orientation program already. They've had it just as long as we've had, but others around us do not have one. But the only thing that may be a little bit different challenge for them is the size of their organization may not allow it. What I'm getting at, if you only had 30 firefighter, EMT, paramedics for your whole department, if you're down one or two, they may want to hurry up and get them as quick as they can to fill those vacancies, because it's costing that agency, time and a half. But basically, they may only have a week of orientation compared to 6 weeks. I mean, it's just done a little differently based on the department size.
How is our retention?
We have unbelievable retention. Since I've been here, nobody has ever gone, because they're like using us as a stepping stone to go somewhere else. In fact, just the opposite. We have people coming from other departments to come here to work. But our retention, like I said, for the past 3 years, I would say it's been 100%. We have not lost anybody to another organization. Now, we've had people retire, which is entirely different.
Yeah, it's not
But
saying.
right, but retention's been like 100% compared to other places. Like, this is kind of funny, because when I was with Sarasota County, we would steal all the time. Not that we were taking them, but like DeSoto County, as soon as they got firefighter paramedics and we were hiring, we ended up hiring all their paramedics. But we weren't like saying, "Hey, DeSoto, come." They just were coming to us. They wanted to be, the bigger department, better department, and they would just lose them. So basically, there are departments in Florida that are struggling because they can't keep positions filled because they're moving on. So they try different incentives to keep them there. But again, they're like getting a job, and then 2 months later, where they really wanted to be, let's say, is at Tampa Fire Department or Hillsborough or Northport. They're leaving. We can't
Well,
stop.
I don't have to make a spectacle of retention because most people know the value, but
Mhm.
that is a huge piece to
Yep,
success of our fire department in Northport, isn't it?
it is. Absolutely, it is. And part of the strategic plan too, and I don't know if you were at that table, but where they were talking about recruitment, because literally this past year, a lot of work is being done and will be done for recruitment. I mean, we've done a lot of job fairs in the 3 county area to advertise, come work here. We've done new brochures. We go to the schools while they're in school for firefighting, EMT, and paramedic, just to recruit. Also, that just started, and you may want to learn more about this from Chief Titus. They're going to start a cadet program, which
Oh,
focuses
fantastic.
on the 11th and 12th graders at the high school. And basically, again, using that as a recruitment tool, to get them interested and like homegrown. They're in your area, and you're training them at a young age, and you're going to put them through schools to get them to become firefighter, EMT, and that's what you want, and then eventually paramedic.
We have a great partnership with STC,
Hmm.
and it's going to develop and grow. They've got some really high goals there. I know that we do that partnership. It's part of the strategic plan, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. We had representative from Suncoast Technical College there at our strategic planning session. They are the facility, like right now, I've got 16 guys and girls in paramedic school. They're in like 3 different classes. One class has got 8 and they're about almost done. But anyway, it's extremely important because, again, they're producing the firefighter EMTs for us. And then, and literally, when we get a candidate from that school, firefighter EMT, there's no question about their skills or their knowledge. Versus like I've seen it, I've witnessed it, where we had candidates from other technical colleges throughout the state of Florida, and it's like, oh my gosh, how did they even get through school? They didn't even know what a spanner wrench is, or something like that, or the basic skills of opening an airway and maintaining an airway.
Right.
So literally, yeah, the school puts out great candidates for us to hire.
We've got about 4 minutes left, and I know we chewed up 50 minutes pretty quick. Um, it goes quick because of the knowledge that you have. Um, can you kind of give an overview of the department today, like from your viewpoint, the health of our department to the city?
Sure. I think that when I look back 50 years ago at Northport, basically they didn't even exist 50 years ago. It was later in time that they were had their first volunteer department, which was the which is currently today Station 82, but it's a new building. But seeing that department grow as the city grew, and the personnel that work for this fire department today, from the chief all the way down to the new firefighter that we just hired in January, those individuals are committed in providing world-class services to the citizens. They are truly committed and dedicated to this job. They're constantly training and looking for opportunities or ways to actually improve in services. That's like when we were doing the accreditation and moving forward with it. Instead of having people, because usually, as you know what I'm talking about, they don't like change, they're resistant to the change. Not these guys and girls. I mean, literally, they were on board from the beginning, and they know the importance of moving forward. And it's just making sure that the communications from top to bottom is continuous, and that prevents rumors from starting and stuff like that. But I mean, the health of the organization is at the highest. And I've seen this department grow from a little dinky department volunteer to one now that's, a role model for many agencies out there.
Well, we've got some huge growth potential yet to do, and
Yep.
we're on the right path. And it's because of guys like you, guys like Chief Titus, and even the entire staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I say this about our police department too, because without that leadership at the top, I guess one could claim the entire city of Northport's leadership at the top, with the growth expansion that we have in almost every department,
Mm-hmm.
and the focus and the drive to be the best. Um, that doesn't just happen. That happens because it's cultivated.
That's
Um,
right.
we've got about a minute left. Can you hit that real quick?
Sure. I mean, because literally, you just said it about being cultivated. That is something that when I got here, I already knew it existed because of Chief Titus and his team. They wanted to take the organization to the next level. But it's not only within the fire department, like I said, it's within city government, the city manager. The city manager literally, he sets the tone, and these directors, I mean, they move forward with it, and there's no questions asked about it. But it's something that you don't see that often in a lot of cities or counties. There's always pushback by one of the department directors or whatever, but not here. Everybody's on board. and they know the importance of it. And people that the citizens that live here probably should learn more about truly their government and what great services they provide. And like you said, the people that are actually doing that work.
They need to learn to embrace it and appreciate it, because throughout the country, we're very blessed to have leadership that we do.
Yep, you're right.
Mr. Chief Gorski, I appreciate you being
Sure.
part of the show, and I enjoyed talking with you.
Enjoy talking to you.
This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio, and thanks for listening. And please share this information. It is critical that every citizen be part of this process and understand exactly what our fire department and other departments do for our city. Thanks, and please share it. Have a good day.
Thank you.